VE3OWV, Victor, Echo 3 Oscar Whiskey Victor.
Nick, VE3OWV. I was wondering where you've been. WA3VJB, Annapolis. Name is Paul, since it's been a while. Hope you're doing well, and have you fished the boat out of winter storage yet?
No, Paul, that hasn't happened yet. Yeah, how are you doing? Yeah, a nice strong signal here this evening. Now, the ground is very boggy outside my barn at the moment, and a little bit soft to get the tractor up there and pull the boat out on the trailer. And the Ottawa River water levels are very high, so we're not even predicting putting any boats in until right near the end of May, so a little bit of patience yet. Did want to hope to do a bit of painting on it before it goes in the water, but whether that's going to come to pass, I don't know. How are you doing? Nice signal. Good choice of frequency, because I think I don't think there's a broadcast station on 7290, so there's no heterodyne, but I know there is one that gets going sometime in the evening usually, but we'll see how it goes anyway. Back to you there, Paul, from VE3OWV.
VE3OWV, WA3VJB. Yeah, I used one of the internet SDRs to kind of find a spot on the dial where there wasn't much to the low side and nothing really on the high side. We've been trying to rock and roll back and forth from about 72, 76 on up. And there's quite a few opportunities for decent elbow room. I was on here a little bit earlier this afternoon, and the band, I think we've had a solar flare, because the band was dead for much of the day yesterday, and then today only seemed to come back to life just a little bit. And I didn't actually work anybody. I was listening to a couple of the guys, but I was working on the bench here for a little bit. And okay, on the river levels there. Yeah, I was wondering what might have affected you there with the weather front that moved through. I saw on the network news tonight that the snowpack melting in some of the upper Midwestern United States has brought the Mississippi River down south to record levels with flooding. So it's all flowing downhill, I guess, Nick, and I guess yours is the start of the headwaters up that way as well. I haven't been out either. Boat is winterized, so what that basically means is drop it in the water, start the engine, and go. But I do need to get the trailer checked. When you're dipping a trailer in salt water to launch the boat, it's a good idea to check those wheel bearings and repack them with grease and check the seals to make sure none of those roller bearings has seized in place and forming a hot spot. They think that's what caused that train wreck out in Ohio, you know, was a seized wheel, and it caught fire for that massive explosion out in I guess it was northeast Ohio. And, yeah, I have visions of that with my boat, so much smaller scale, of course, but just as calamitous, because it's a single-axle trailer. So you got a lot riding on those two tires, Nick. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're right about that. I've got a fairly heavy single-axle trailer. I really want to get the boat in the water to work on the trailer. It needs a good coat of paint and cleaning up. And I think the wheel bearings are okay. I don't have to drive it very far, and once the boat's in the water, then the trailer's free and clean, you know, until I have to take the boat out again. But we'll see how it goes. It's very heavy. Not a particularly big boat. It's a 23-foot sailboat, but it's got a lead keel, fixed lead keel. It's pretty heavy. I don't know what exact weight it is, but it's fairly hefty weight on the trailer. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, so what happens here, we've got the Ottawa River has a lot of upper catchment area, and there was a pretty good snow cover this year, and it's actually peaked now, and I think it's gradually going down. They hadn't that last weather front didn't really hit that region. It went to the east of us, so I don't think they're predicting any more real serious problems. 2017 was a very bad year. There were all sorts of very high levels, but at the moment looks like I think it's about 1 metre. Where I put the boat in, the water level is about 1 metre above average, which is not real too bad. I mean, it causes a little bit of local flooding, but it's not not as serious as it has been in the past. So hopefully it'll be okay. It'll start going down, and yeah, we'll be able to take advantage of it, hopefully. I didn't manage it at all last year. I think I might have told you we had a windstorm problem here. It did a lot of damage to a barn, and I had to spend most of the summer repairing that. So, yeah, you never know. That happened in May. We haven't got to May yet. That's when these sort of things are liable to happen. Anyway, trust all is well with you, and sounding good. I don't know what rig you're running. I'm running homebrew rig here, single 813, modulated by a pair of 805s, and receiving on a I'm receiving on the exciter, which is actually a TS140S. I just use that to drive a little bit of grid drive into the 813. I don't use the audio in that rig, but it's I'm receiving on it at the moment. I have a bit of a problem with the changeover switching here. I usually use an R388 as the receiver, but the TR switch, I've got a relay gone, or a DC supply to a relay gone somewhere in the changeover switching, so it's a two-handed process at the moment. I have to switch the TS140 on and off separately by its send-receive switch on the front panel instead of it picking up the command from the switching system. But other than that, that's just a minor inconvenience. It'd be terrible trying to operate a contest like that with sideband, you know, but for long rag chews on AM, it really doesn't matter too much. Back to you there, Paul, WA3, I never get them first, WA3VJB, I think is the call, and I always get the VJB part, okay, and the rest of it, it gets a bit confusing. Back to you, Paul, over.
Okay. Thought I heard somebody in there. Is there another station? It's not. VE3OWV, WA3VJB. There used to be a radio station in New York, WNBC, and they used to emphasize the N to distinguish it from the other powerhouse in New York, which was WABC. So it was always WNBC. So somewhere along the way, I decided to emphasize that A in there. And by habit, I hit it harder than the other letters, which has led to some confusion, because when said that way, it could be W8, and then they miss the alphanumeric that follows. So it's a habit now, and I have to try to curtail it a little bit and just say WA3 instead of WA3VJB. But now you know the heritage of it. Yeah, well, the rig sounds good. Lots of signal. I don't think I've heard you in the clear and as strong as you are in quite a while, Nick. So I'll tip my hat to you. 813's making the job nicely. And the 805s, it's an interesting tube. I think that's the one that looks like an 810. Doesn't have the side grid cap, though. But the glass envelope's about the same as an 810, if I remember that correctly. And yeah, it's doing a good job. Well, I had a nice couple of encounters with one of your countrymen, Bruce, in Cambridge, Ontario. He's VE3LPR, Lima Papa Radio, and it was his first time on AM in 44 years. And interesting story behind him. He's probably listening too, but he said he was licensed 44 years ago, and he never took AM seriously. I was like, well, okay. And from somewhere, and this is the part that I don't have written down, but it was his first month on AM when I encountered him back on the 18th, a few days ago now. And he's running a Viking Ranger and listening on a 75A4. From somewhere, he got religion. And now he calls it, this is the roots of ham radio. And I wrote that down as a quote associated with him as I fill out a card in the card file here. So I don't know if you know him from any of your local ham fests up there or what have you, but Bruce, VE3LPR, is just a delight to talk with on the radio here. And I even mentioned you, and I said, you know, I don't know what it is about you VE3s, but I always enjoy spending time on the radio with you. And I, quoted some of the time you and I have spent. And so he might be on the lookout for him as well there. I don't know. Well, I think our UK compadres, at least to the central Atlantic region here in Maryland, the band has 10 meters, has taken its north-south orientation now that we're into spring. And I don't hear the 10-meter band opening to Europe and the UK much anymore. So I guess I missed my opportunity to get my own homebrew rig on the air in style and work those guys. Probably not again till fall. And we'll see what the sunspots are doing by that time. But it's still sitting right where it was when I talked with you last. And there's just a lot of stuff going on. Not only around the yard here as we prepare for spring and everything's blooming and all, but we're trying to get some house projects done as well. And our contractor, who I guess has been at it for more than 40 years himself, had to have his shoulder replaced with some Teflon titanium components, as he could barely lift it above horizontal, his arm. And I saw him at one of the big box department stores here last weekend. And I said, well, hey, I see you're up and about. He said, oh, yeah, I've been back to work a little sooner than my doctor's orders. So Pam and I, right away, I sent her a picture of the two of us, a selfie of the two of us in one of the aisles at the Home Depot. And she right away messaged back and said, you got to get him on our projects. Because you have to understand, Dallas Jones is a master craftsman, and his schedule fills up so dramatically and in such a great lead time that you never get a chance to really get your projects done with him anymore. And now with his temporary disability with his shoulder and now being replaced and repaired, he might be making just enough money to get ready for retirement. So we got to get a hold of him, and that means some plotting out, both financially and logistically, as to what we want to get done with the house there. So I haven't been on the radio too much, Nick, and that's one of the reasons why. VE3OWV, WA3VJB.
Yeah, WA3VJB from VE3OWV. Yeah, I got getting a little bit difficult to copy now, Paul. The band changed suddenly on us, and I got most of that, but it was becoming very, very noisy. And right at the beginning, you were, killing the noise here, but it's a rapid change, and I think we're still in with some pretty unstable solar conditions. Yeah, and okay on your friend there, a replacement shoulder. Wow. Yeah, I could do with something like that. I kind of strained mine when I was doing my barn repairs, and it's still a bit painful, but I'm gradually getting over it, hopefully. And I've got to go in for a hernia operation sometime fairly soon. That's another inconvenience, and I'm just hoping that doesn't sort of coincide with good boating times, because I'm going to have to. I don't know when it's going to happen. It's sometime within the next, goodness knows, weeks, months. I haven't got a date yet, but there's a fairly, like a 4-week recovery period after it when I won't be doing anything, anything major, put it that way. Yeah, I worked Bruce on the 14th of the month, and there's a couple other guys as well. There's Carl. No, not Carl. VE3 RZX, Mike in Barry's Bay. I worked him on the 12th. And there's another one, Sam, V3. Was that on? Oh no, that was on 60 meters. No, I worked. Yeah, so there's a couple of them. There's V3 LPR, Bruce, and there's V3RZX, Mike in Barry's Bay. Good, both great guys to talk to, and yeah, it's I like AM. I started on AM. Paul, when I first got my Class B no-code license back in the UK, the only option to getting on the air was UHF by 70 centimeters and amplitude modulation. Well, I guess I could have used FM. I did a little bit, but so I cut my teeth mostly on 70 centimeters and 23 centimeters amplitude modulation, and it's been downhill ever since. Anyway, I'm not going to hold it too long because you're probably struggling with me as well if the band's doing what I think it is. WA3VJB from VE3OWV.
Well, I'm delighted that you managed to connect with Bruce. That's great. Next time I talk with him, I'll say mission accomplished. And I didn't need to encourage him much to get on because he from somewhere had already found the nugget of the attraction of AM and was quite pleased to be able to work on 40 watts all the way down to Maryland on the day we talked. And apparently one of the videos that's out there showing us having a good time on the radio made its way to him, and he credited that video with turning his interest toward AM. But of course that's just the introduction. You actually have to light the fire and make yourself a campfire, and he's done so, and I think we'll hear him on more often now, and we've set the hook to reel him in if I'm going to mix my analogies there. All right, well, your signal has held up, Nick, no problem at all. It's a little bit less stable. That was a good way to put it. It's varying by about 10 dB, but you had such a margin to begin with that it's not a problem. and it might be good to take the time to sign and catch you again. I don't know if you're on during the week, during the daytime or not, but I try to give you a call when I'm on to see if you're in the woodwork somewhere. Very good on the barn, by the way. I meant to comment on that project yourself. A lot of handiwork you've got around the place there, it sounds like. So thanks for calling. And, gee, it's good to hear that you're doing okay. A little soreness. Not something a little bit of liniment can't take care of, it sounds like. But, yeah, do take care. VE3OWV. Good night from Annapolis. WA3VJB. My pleasure.
Yeah, I did that for a while. I think before I get too much more operating, I'm going to have to sort out this transmitter C switching at this end. It's kind of all awkward leaning. So I've got to wind down the audio on the R388 because the muting doesn't work. I have to press the send receive button on the TS140S, and I have to press the transmit button for the VE13 modulator. Kind of like three controls. I can listen to AM on the TS140, okay, but it's not terribly good audio quality, and the filter in that is just a little bit narrow, so I prefer to listen on the R388, which is a kind of better rounded quality and a nicer sort of smoother AM quality. You know, it's all about the smoothness with AM, I think. It's kind of what I like about it. I've always liked AM. I've never really been off AM. I've tried a lot of the other modes, digital, a little bit of CW, but not very much. Not very good at that. And I tend to gravitate back to AM. If I tot up the amount of time I spend nattering on the microphone, I'm pretty sure AM would win hands down. I enjoyed DX operating and so on sideband, but it's a different that's a different ball of wax, you know. And so it's anyway, great talking to you this evening, Paul. Hope we'll catch you again before too long, and I'll have all my switches and all my ducks in the row, all my ducks in a row as regards transmit receive switching. 73s, have a great evening, and all the best to you and yours. WA3VJB in Annapolis, VE3OWV. Just west of Ottawa is off and clear. 73.